DebX, amplifying voices, accelerating change. Please help me welcome to the DebX stage, Malcom Smith.
I grew up as a young black boy in the South. As many of you can imagine, that wasn't always easy. I was often the only black kid in the classes, so I stood out. And sometimes I was singled out, and not in a good way. I was bullied by kids and by some adults. I would be called racially hurtful names, told that my ideas were stupid, and I would often be belittled. There were times where I was playing on the playground at school with my friends, and we would get in trouble, but my friends would get off scot-free while I was taken inside to receive painful punishments from the school counselors. It wasn't easy being black. I remember sitting at lunch with my friends, minding my own business, and a kid walked by and kicked me in the head with his Doc Marten boot. Now, some people may say that those things should have made me angry, and they did on some level. But more than that, it instilled in me a deep-seated fear. It's a fear that had me not feel comfortable in who I was. As I said, being one of a handful of black kids in a predominantly white school wasn't easy, and it wasn't easy outside of school either. You see, I grew up in predominantly white neighborhoods, except for one, and that one was predominantly black. And while that may sound like that's a better situation, in that neighborhood, the kids made sure to point out how I was different from them. They would chase me down the street and throw rocks at me because I did things different from them. I played the cello and the French horn, and I liked country music. I dressed differently from them, and I even sounded different from them. I can't tell you how many times I was asked, "Why do you talk like a white person?" I was living in two worlds, and I didn't feel like I belonged in either one. It was a constant uphill battle, and I had to find a way to cope, and I did. I discovered that life got easy when I would just conform to the environment that I was in and give people what they wanted. Whenever I was hanging out with my friends, I would always let them pick the music we would listen to, or the restaurants we would go to, or whatever activities we were going to do. I would just go along with them, whether I wanted to or not. I became a master chameleon. I quickly learned what my classmates, friends, teachers, and sometimes even my family wanted so I could give it to them. Why? Because I wanted them to like me. I wanted them to include me. I wanted to belong. So being liked became my mission and part of my DNA. And I got good at it, so much so that I was elected as the president of both my middle school and high school orchestras, and I built a fantastic group of friends. The only problem, while I found lots of friends, I completely lost sight of who I was. I did everything I could to fit in and hide that I was black. How ridiculous is that? I was trying to hide in plain sight. I was so busy being the person that I thought everyone else thought I should be that I completely had no idea who I was. That was until I was in graduate school, and there was an event that I went to called the Million Man March. It was an event in Washington, D.C. that was intended to be a political demonstration to promote African American unity and family values. They expected hundreds of thousands of black men to be there and gather on the Capitol steps, and I wanted to experience that. But I almost didn't go, because it was an event that was being put on by what some people called a radical black group. So while I was excited about the idea, that all too familiar fear of not fitting in crept in. Would people associate me with a radical black group and not want to be my friend? Would they still talk to me? Thankfully, my curiosity won out, and I chose to go. It was an amazing event. There were black people of all shades, ages, and sizes there, businessmen in suits and men with their sons on their shoulders, and something I had never experienced or expected. I was part of the majority, and I felt accepted. For the first time in my life, I was able to let down a wall that I wasn't even aware that I had put up. I felt safe. I stood with hundreds of thousands of black men on our nation's capital, the place where Martin Luther King had given his "I have a dream" speech. In that sea of black people, I discovered that there is no one right way to be black. Had you been there, you would have seen lawyers and street vendors and loud, boisterous men and quiet observers. It was incredible. There was laughter and dancing as we all celebrated that historic day. I remember the sun shining on my skin and the crunch of the fall grass under my feet as I stood on the National Mall. And I remember that it was like my feet disappeared into the ground and my legs were like roots, and I felt more connected than I ever had. And it was as if the souls of all the black people who had died fighting for me to stand there freely were rejoicing up through me in that moment. And I felt more connected than I ever was. For the first time in my life, I felt like a black man. I was connected, I belonged, and there was nothing to do. I was finally free to be me. I could just love the skin I was in. From that experience, I learned that people play the cello and like country music because I do. And whatever I do represents what black people do because I am black. It was so obvious and so easy. I didn't have to pretend to be anything but myself unless I wanted to. As I said, I was comfortable in the skin I was in. I now had the freedom to discover the things that I liked, and I was free to share new thoughts and ideas with others, even if I thought they may disagree. And one of the best things, I was now able to allow others to be themselves, however they were. I became the safe space for others. You know that totally safe space that you have with your closest friend? How you're free to just be yourself with them. And they love and accept you however you are. You could be a jerk or smell. They don't care. They love you. That's true freedom. Many, if not most people, do not live their lives with that type of freedom. If that's true about you, what is it like to not have the freedom to be the true you? There have been several studies to look at these issues, and one of them was done by a lady named Abigail Mengers of the University of Pennsylvania. And she found that people desire to be unique, but that desire competes with the need to belong. And Dr. Elizabeth Hopper, a licensed clinical psychologist, found that living authentically supports our overall well-being, high self-esteem, and it leads to better relationships. However, she found that authenticity goes right out the window when people worry about being rejected. Where are you not comfortable in your skin and you're trying to hide in plain sight? Is it because of your race or your gender? Or maybe it's who you're attracted to? Are you not your ideal weight, or maybe you're part of a specific religion? Or maybe it's that you don't have a certain amount of money in the bank. There are so many areas where we are locked into being a certain way, where others expect you to behave in ways that have you hide the true you. It is okay for you to be yourself. Imagine living your life with the freedom you have with your closest friend. I invite you to stand in your version of the National Mall. Get grounded and connect and pull up your truth. What is it that you have to offer the world, that the world is waiting for, that you have not been able to share because you weren't comfortable in your own skin? The time is now. The world awaits you. Be courageous. Be who you really are. Be the true you. Thank you.